Greetings historians, welcome to Lore of the Dragon. Today, we're going to be discussing a character that has actually been in the Spyro series ever since the original trilogy ended. However, up until the Reignited Trilogy, she never actually got that much attention. However, her only recent major appearance was in Spyro the Reignited Trilogy. In this video, we're going to be going over the story of Bianca, and how her story could play out in the next Spyro game. Now, just in case there are people who don't necessarily know the story of Bianca and the backstory of the Forgotten Realms, we're going to be going over some story points to explain what these things are, as they do play a part in her own story. So, before we actually start Bianca's history, we're going to be going over briefly a history of the dragons and the sorceress. Dragons, as noted in Year of the Dragon, were told to be the source of magic, and wherever they went, it would follow. This both gave the species a powerful force at their command, but at the same time, would sometimes act as their own downfall. 1 millennium before current events, the dragons and the sorceress lived in relative peace, in a place now known as the Forgotten Realms. On a side note, the Forgotten Realms might have been called something else at some point, but from the dragon's perspective, as the story is told through, they were simply forgotten by some among them. But during a meeting between an elder dragon known as Aster and the sorceress, the crocodile banished the dragon to the other side of the world, and later this would become what is now known as the Dragon Realms. Bianca's story, of course, starts out in the Forgotten Realms, under the absolute rule of the sorceress, now that the dragons were no longer contesting her. This would only be enforced by an army under the command of the sorceress. Its ranks filled the species called the Rhinox. Bianca at some point would come to the sorceress and actually wanted to become a sorceress herself, and so went to the sorceress and asked to be trained, the sorceress accepting Bianca as her student. But as the years dragged on, a source of magic was becoming harder to come by, for both Bianca and her tutor. Seeing this problem arising, Bianca was ordered by the sorceress to travel to the other side of the world, along with a few Rhinox, and hopefully find a way to remedy this situation. This solution would come in the form of stealing the eggs from the dragons, and using them to feed magic into the Forgotten Realms once more. Now, it is stated that when the sorceress actually banished the dragons, she didn't know that they were the source of magic, and that by sending them away, the Forgotten Realms would dry up. At some point during her rule, she more than likely figured it out, maybe through reading a book of some sort that was left behind by the dragons, or even realizing that that was the case. That once the dragons had left, or been banished, the magic started drying up, and that they never had this problem when the dragons were there. This plan would almost work seamlessly, but as fate would have it, Bianca made the mistake of stepping on the tail of a cheetah by the name of Hunter, waking him from his calm slumber in Stone Hill with a loud cry of pain. This alerted not only Hunter to their presence, but the dragons and Spyro as well. The dragons and the cheetah gave chase, but before they could actually catch the rabbit and her escort, they escaped through a hole to the Forgotten Realms. Bianca later returned to the sorceress, informing her of the success that she had in the Dragon Realms, but a remark about her usefulness to the sorceress seemed to disturb the rabbit slightly, though Bianca seemed to brush it off in mere seconds. It was soon after this that Bianca was tasked with hiding the eggs around the Forgotten Realms, in case someone came looking for them, and of course, some did. As Spyro and Hunter began exploring the Forgotten Realms, he was intercepted by the rabbit, Bianca giving him a warning, and telling him that he would never find the eggs, that each one now belonged to her and the sorceress. She would meet Spyro and Hunter again. However, at first, she would see a slight accident befall the two, with Hunter tripping over the purple dragon's tail as Spyro turned around to see if anything was behind them. As a result of this, Bianca let out a quick giggle, alerting both the dragon and the cheetah to her being there. Almost immediately, the rabbit changed her expression, trying to take the appearance of someone more serious and fitting of the situation. She gave them another threat, making the remark that the land where they stood was no place for either a dragon nor a pussycat. The rabbit then charged a blast of magic, shooting it toward the two and striking Hunter's feet, flinging the cheetah into the air. Seeing this, Spyro immediately retaliated, letting out his own magic in the form of fire, chasing the rabbit away. This failure to stop both Hunter and Spyro was brought to the sorceress, who scolded Bianca for not being able to stop the Dragon Realm's rescue attempt, asking why she even decided to train her in frustration, even going as far as to call her useless. To help Bianca in combating their adversary, the sorceress gave her a spellbook in the hopes that she could use it to stop Spyro and Hunter. It was then that Bianca used one of the spells to transform a Rhinoc in the room by the name of Buzz. However, this at first wouldn't go exactly to plan, but only in a few seconds, turning him from a bunny to something that they thought could defeat the purple dragon. As Buzz was sent to deal with Spyro, Bianca went to a place called Midday Gardens to try and perfect this transformation spell. Her efforts would almost cost her, as after a few tries, she has successfully changed it into another savage creature, but was now in the direct line of it, leading to her eventually being engulfed by her own creation. Unknown to her, this was both observed by Spyro and Hunter, with the cheetah rushing to help the sorceress rabbit, eventually getting her out of the creature, only to almost be eaten himself. Bianca, however, casted a spell on the creature at the last second, leaving the now reverted bunny to hop on top of Hunter's head for a few seconds. Once Hunter had disposed of the bunny, Bianca thanked the cheetah for saving her, Spyro saying that it was a good thing that Hunter was there when he was. This brief comment cut the momentary ceasefire off, as now the dragon and the rabbit were ready to stand off, magic versus magic. However, Bianca would find that her magic was now depleted, leaving Spyro with the upper hand, and leaving Bianca with no choice but to retreat. This once again would lead to the rabbit being scolded, her job now taken by the sorceress herself. But Bianca then wondered why her tutor was going to such lengths to keep these eggs in her possession, questioning if it was even worth all the effort that they were putting in. Her master then reminded her that without the eggs, the realms would soon dry up, telling Bianca that she would die and that ultimately this would leave Bianca without the chance to become a true sorceress herself. The crocodile then turned to another Rhinoc by the name of Spike, transforming him into another hideous creature, so that once more the sorceress might be able to stop Hunter and Spyro. Later, Bianca would warn Spyro again about going up against the sorceress, but her attitude was not one necessarily of hate, but one more of concern and worry. She told him that the sorceress had already set up a trap for him and Hunter, and if he stopped now, she would take care of the eggs, and he could go home without conflict. However, the purple dragon persisted and pushed onward. However, unknown to him, Hunter had fallen for the trap placed for them, leaving him captured underground. The rabbit then brought Hunter food, and discussed the plan that the sorceress had for the eggs to the cheetah, telling him why exactly the eggs were so important to keep in the Forgotten Realms, even telling him of the history between the sorceress and the dragons, as he asked about the dragons living there long ago. Bianca went back to the sorceress with the news that Spike had been defeated. The sorceress then went into a fit of rage, saying that she wanted to create a monster that could end the dragons once and for all. Bianca then asked why she would do this, saying that it would kill the dragons inside it, including the hatchlings that she had sought to keep away from the dragon realms. Little does she know the gruesome truth that would be presented to her. The sorceress told her that it was never necessarily the eggs that she wanted, that it was never her intention to truly bring back magic to the Forgotten Realms, but that she wanted the wings of the unborn hatchlings for herself, so that she could create a spell that would, according to her, let her live forever. Bianca then immediately protested this, wondering why she had even listened to someone capable of thinking such things, leaving the life that she had known for so long behind. With this information, the rabbit rushed to where Hunter was being held, releasing him and going with him to meet Spyro. so that they could finish off the sorceress and end her genocide before it began. Bianca, Hunter, and Spyro seemingly defeated the sorceress, seeming to end her reign and plans for the eggs. It was in this celebration that Hunter and Bianca now shared a moment in a place called Fireworks Factory, kissing as the moon hovered overhead, to the dismay of Spyro. It was soon revealed to them that the sorceress had somehow come back, and to Hunter's fear, this would lead to a second confrontation between Spyro and the sorceress, though this fear would be something that he would place on Bianca. The purple dragon, with the assistance of a flying saucer given to him by Bianca, was once again able to defeat the sorceress, seemingly finishing her off once and for all. A year later, a ceremony in the Dragon Realms was being held for the hatchlings that had come out of their eggs during the Year of the Dragon. The ceremony entailing that each one was supposed to be given a dragonfly companion. However, Ripto, an enemy Spyro had fought in a place called Avalar, took the dragonflies hostage, including Spyro's own dragonfly companion, Sparx. This effectively ended the ceremony, driving the Dragon Realms, and more specifically, Spyro, to do something about Ripto. Before the purple dragon went on his quest, Bianca had cast a spell on him, one that, in theory, could allow the dragon to use a bubble breath, so that he can more easily bring back the dragonflies that Ripto had taken. After stopping Ripto, and as peace settled on the realms, Bianca was planning a vacation for her, Hunter, and Spyro, going to a library to see if there was any books on a location that they might be able to go. Unbeknownst to her, she had given the spellbook that the sorceress had given her behind in the building, leaving it to be found by a Rhinoc by the name of Grendor, now the librarian for the Grand Central Dragon Realms Library. With this promise of power, however, and being surrounded by magic, he took the spellbook and enchanted one of its spells, so that he could transform himself into a creature of such strength and intellect that he could bring down the Dragon Realms. But this backfired, as he quite clumsily read the spell as it was upside down, transforming him into a two-headed Rhinoc, leaving him with some of the desired result he was looking for, however, in a less appealing way. Despite this attempt to take power, Grendor was beaten, and now Hunter, Bianca, and Spyro were left free to take their vacation, ending up in Dragon's Shores. They laid down resting on the beach until a message from a friend of theirs, a fairy by the name of Zoe, sent a message to Spyro telling him that her home, the Fairy Realms, was now under attack by the Rhinocs, and that it was being frozen over, blocking the fairy's escape. Bianca would only appear a few times before an event known as the Calamity, where she had been captured alongside her cousins Lucia, Bruno, and Teresa, after she sailed to a place called Lost Fleet to visit them before they were all trapped in the Shadow Realm. It wasn't until Spyro came that they were actually freed from the Shadow Realm. However, instead of staying with her family, Bianca went to confront those who caused this, finding Red there, a fallen elder dragon, and the one who truly caused the cataclysm, the sorcerer. Bianca, though, would be caught once again, being freed by Spyro once he had defeated Red. However, they would learn that Red was not actually in control of his actions, and that he had been a puppet for the sorcerer for some time, even years. And eventually, he ended up convincing Bianca and Spyro that he was genuine. So that Spyro could defeat the sorcerer, Bianca told the purple dragon the path that she took to get to him and his land. And with this information, Spyro would defeat the sorcerer, but regrettably, the sorcerer would get away, promising that one day he would return. Bianca ever since then prepared herself, and those around her for that moment, and waited for the sorcerer's return, making sure that if he ever came back, they would be more than ready to face him once more. That, historians, is the story of Bianca up to this point in time. Now, let's get into my thoughts on how exactly her story might continue in a new continuity after Reignited Year of the Dragon. And for those wondering, my thoughts on the original timeline and how that would continue with her story, I imagine that Bianca, Hunter, and Spyro would fight the sorcerer again, along with the rest of the Dragon Realms. Anything beyond that would be a topic for an entire video. As for my thoughts on a new Spyro game, I imagine it taking place around where Year the Dragon left off, with her practicing the spells from the book the sorceress gave her, continuing the story arc of her wanting to become a sorceress. Now, there's also a dynamic between her and Hunter, with the two now being in a relationship as of Year the Dragon. This is something that really, in my opinion, post-Insomniac games forgot about, but nonetheless is something important to the characters and their development. Though, seeing that with the Spyro Grand Prix and CTR, the idea of a relationship between the two is alive, even if CTR isn't canon to either the Spyro or Crash universes. In a new game, actual acknowledgement of this relationship would be something that, with the right execution, might be able to enrich the story in ways that Spyro himself couldn't, and give people a sense that time has passed in the universe, and that with the world, the characters have grown as well. As for the Sorcerer's story arc, in much the same way as the Hunter and Bianca arc, if Toys for Bob plays their cards right, it could make her a character that has a formidable force against those who oppose the Dragon Realms and those who reside in it. Now, in similar ways to the originals, she could be a way to teach Spyro to harness elements without the need of a power-up gate through a spell, or even teach Spyro ways to gain more elements through various spells himself, sending you on small mini-games which in the end would reward you with a certain element. Now this is all if Toys for Bob actually wants to go with the line of multiple elements. On a side note though, the way Bianca might have been able to learn how to teach Spyro these elements could be through an ancient book that she found in the Forgotten Realms. A record, almost, of how dragons of old achieved them. Maybe this book was hidden from Bianca by the sorceress. Maybe she found it lying somewhere to be forgotten. Along with Bianca not being sidelined like she was in post-Insomniac games, would be able to put more of a background on the way the Forgotten Realms were before. Maybe even shed light on the inhabitants that lived there. Eventually, I do see her becoming a true sorceress, but at least for the next game or two, I imagine her character going through the process, but having Hunter along the way to help her through whatever conflict they might face next. Anyhow, that's my theory on Bianca's future and the history of the character. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next lore video. Stay safe, historians.